I'm going to start this out a little bit differently than usual. This is the project. This is called 3-Layer Vase, coming from Steve Good's website. I'll give you a link as I usually do. I'd already made this project and I shot video of it, and by mistake I deleted most of the files. So I've never done that before, but there's a first for everything. Anyway, so I'm going to do it again. I needed one anyway. I started a second one, and it was before I deleted the files, but I started the second one, and right here, I don't know if there was a little bit of a fault in the wood, or if I goofed somehow, but you can see these connections are pretty small. Anyway, that one broke. I thought about gluing it back, but there's not much area there, and it would be very easy to pick up the vase right here, although there's handles, but it'd be real easy to pick up the vase right there and break it, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to leave somebody with something like that. I'll be able to use the back of this for some small things. There's a lot of holes in there, but I'll be able to use the back for some small pieces. So I cut out another, and I've got the pattern laid out on a 1/4 inch thick piece of oak. I've got another matching size piece of oak for the back. Now I've got to cut the front by itself because of the design being cut out, so I'm going to drill the pilot holes and then I'll cut that out. Then once I'm done cutting the front, I'm going to use double-sided tape to hold these together, and I will cut out the back and the front. That way they'll be exactly matching. I already cut out the middle. There's nothing much to see on that, so I don't think I'm going to reshoot that. It's just a matter of cutting out the pattern in 3/4 thick material rather than 1/4 inch thick material. The heart of what you need to do is going to be here. So let me go drill some pilot holes, and then we'll come back to the scroll saw in a little while. I don't always show the drilling step, but this step is harder than usual for this project. The first time I picked up this pattern and went to drill the holes, I almost put them in the wrong place. I started to drill in the middle of one of the flowers rather than the outside, so I want to have the photo ready as a reference to make sure I drill the holes in the right places. If you study it a little, you'll see that one pattern repeats itself 6 times, going around in a circle. So I know I need to drill a pilot hole outside the flower, and I'll do that for all 6 of them. Then I'll pick out another design detail and make those 6 pilot holes. Some of the shapes are hard to describe, but take your time to identify where the next pilot hole should go, drill it for all 6 of the shapes, and then move on to the next one. Once I've finished all these, I'll move over to the scroll saw for the next step. This is 1/4 inch thick red oak. Over time and experience, I developed a set of rules of thumb for determining what size blade to use. For this application, I chose a number 3 Pegasus modified geometry blade. I'll leave a link to my video on choosing blade sizes in case you want to learn more about it. I drilled all the pilot holes, and this pattern has a lot of cuts. Some of the shapes are very small and complex, so I'm not sure I would recommend it to an absolute beginner. You should have some experience and definitely a large amount of patience before attempting this pattern. I find a lighted magnifier is a useful accessory for projects with this level of detail. I leave the light off when recording video because it gets too bright for the camera and the details get washed out. 2 accessories I recommend are a lighted magnifier and a foot switch. The foot switch lets you keep both hands on the workpiece even when starting or stopping the saw. These are both available from Bearwood Supply, and I'll leave a link to their website in the description. The Pegasus scroll saw and Pegasus modified geometry blades are also available from them. I started cutting this pattern with the spaces between the flowers since those were the biggest pieces. In retrospect, I think the better choice would be to start with the petals on the flower shape in the middle, then get those sort of triangular shapes next to them. Then I would move to the next set of shapes as you move outward from the center, finishing with the spaces around the shapes on the outside layer. Since these are mostly floral shapes, the places where you make direction changes can be done a bit on the soft side rather than as very sharp points. In other words, If you are a beginner on the scroll saw and your cuts are a little bit off making crisp turns, it won't be evident on this pattern. I didn't have any specific cutting tips for this project. It's just a matter of methodically cutting each piece. You'll notice that a piece broke as I was finishing a cut on one of the large sections. Looking back, I can see it was likely due to one or more causes. The first was that, since both breaks occurred in pieces cut from the same board, there may have been a hidden fault that I did not see. Also, these came from a 1/2 inch thick board that I planed down to 1/4 inch because that was the thickness I needed for the sides of this face. In my experience, 1/4 inch material is highly susceptible to cupping and warping, and there may have been a small amount of wood movement that unfortunately made this board too weak to endure any significant cutting. The second possibility is that my scroll saw blade was starting to dull. That meant it was not cutting as smoothly as it should, and the extra vibration caused the wood to snap rather than to cut smoothly. It's also possible that I was running the blade at a speed that was not optimal for this cut in this wood, and that set up some vibration I didn't notice. I mention these things for a couple of reasons. One is that no matter how much experience you have, you will experience problems like this occasionally. The second is that if you know why these things happen, you may be able to avoid them as much as possible. Scroll saw blades are relatively inexpensive, so make sure to replace the blade as soon as you realize it's getting dull. The video of the glue up was accidentally deleted, but there wasn't anything unusual shown that step anyway, so we'll move on to the final steps. Front, middle, and back matched well, but not perfectly, so I'll fix that with a flush trim bit. I'll use my DeWalt trim router, which I've come to love using for jobs like this. I'll leave a link to my video on my review of this tool for you to watch later if you need a trim router. The flush trim bit does a good job of cleaning up the small irregularities. Once I completed that task, I removed the battery to change safely to a roundover bit. I thought the vase would look and feel better with a roundover on the edges, so I removed the flush trim bit and added a roundover bit since the trim router was already handy. I have since purchased a CNC machine, and the DeWalt router is now used with that machine, but I have another router mounted in a router table, so I'll dedicate that mostly to roundovers to avoid having to move the DeWalt router out of the CNC. This is one of the most challenging projects I have ever completed on the scroll saw. I ruined two fronts for the reasons I've already described. So if you decide to make this vase, take your time and be careful. I think it is well worth the effort, and anyone who sees it will be impressed with your accomplishment. As always, a like and a click of the subscribe button is much appreciated. They help grow this channel. I read and reply to every comment, so feel free to leave your impressions on this project. If you're ready to watch another video, a suggestion will appear on the screen.